Thank you. So therefore, fellow Africans, being on 28th of January 2025, I am once again profoundly honored to bring to you our second pillar of the Change for African campaign, which doubles up to be our 12th episode of the Change for African campaign. In particular, in Africa today, to help us realize the potential that we have as Africa, which is yet to be tapped, will be our agricultural sector in Africa and how it is faring on in terms of food importation. The real statistics are that in Africa we still import much of our what we consume, especially food. And just a few or quick statistics about how Africa is faring on in terms of food importation to our great continent of Africa. First and foremost, I would love us to know the size of land that we have as a continent and what is happening to the contrary of that. It is that in Africa we hold to about 20% of the total global land or global arable land is found in Africa. And also that is approximately 300 million hectares of arable land, of which out of these 300 million hectares of arable land in Africa, only 40% of this land is under cultivation, meaning the 60% is not under cultivation. And so what are the consequences of having so much of this and then or a continent of about 1.4 billion people being able to own such a land, a huge potential in terms of agriculture, and then we do not utilize that land? Most of this land is underutilized. This is the consequence. Just one example in the recent years, that in 2021 only, Africa imported food amounting to about 100 billion US dollars. 100 billion US dollars. That was 4 years ago. And to help you understand what 100 billion US dollars means to Africa, and I'll give you an example, like here in Kenya, what 100 billion may mean to us dollars. It means if we had 100 billion today dollars, that is about 15 trillion, 14.6 to 15 trillion Kenyan shillings. What does 15 trillion mean, Kenyan shillings mean to Kenya? It means that even if we had that will be able to clear our total debt as a country, both external and internal, and then there will be a balance of that, which we can use that even to fund our 2025-2026 financial year budget. That is what that means. That is a huge sums of money. So therefore, fellow Africans, our today's country, or with due respect to our customs, we always have a country that is to help us exemplify on a topic that we're having. So a country to help us exemplify on our today's topic under the agricultural sector will be country number 234, the most populous country in Africa and the sixth most populous country in Africa, and that is the great Nigeria. So therefore, fellow Africans, welcome and let's proceed. And so here is Nigeria. Nigeria has over 70 million hectares of suitable land for farming. And the contrary of that is that Nigeria still imports a significant portion of its food into that country. Some of the factors contributing to this is that Nigeria contributing to underperforming of this sector is that only about 40% of this arable land of Nigeria is cultivated out of the 70 million hectares that they have. And then also the infrastructural challenges in Nigeria, whereby we have lack of contemporary irrigation systems, poor storage facilities. Some products may need some cooling machines or just great storage facilities to store food, maybe that they can export or that can have a long lifespan, after it has been harvested. And then the inadequate transportation networks, and also things to do with the policy issues. The government has not taken it that agriculture can actually be a sector of concern in terms of its contribution to the gross domestic produce or the GDP of that country. And they have relied so much, or there's also a great reliance on the mining sector of the oil in Nigeria. Because actually, according to some of the studies that I've gone through, is that some of the very great global opportunities as we go into future is the agricultural sector. That is a very great global opportunity. The agricultural sector. We have the agricultural sector. We have the resources, and these are all things that we have in our Change for African campaign initiative that I'm running for now. So I would like us now to dive deeper into what really, how it looks like in terms of food importation in Nigeria. So let's proceed and dive into it. So this is just one example of how importation of food in Nigeria is still a very issue that they still covet so much. Here is it, that we have a very common type of food known as rice. You know rice, okay? That Nigeria's rice production actually it rose from 3.7 million metric tons in 2017 to 4 million metric tons in 2018. However, only 57% of the 6.7 metric tons of rice consumed annually is locally produced in Nigeria. What does this mean? It means that we have a deficit of 3 million metric tons that is needed now in Nigeria. So what happens next? Which just has to be imported, or even we have some crude means of how some of the rice actually get into the country through the smuggling and all the other illegal activities. So we now want to see what importation costs the Nigerian government, the food importation in Nigeria cost the Nigerian government. That the expenditure on food importation has seen a significant increase over the years. And for instance, in 2024, the country spent approximately 920.54 billion nairas on food imports. In Kenyan shillings, for you to understand, for those who are in Kenya or for here in Kenya, but this is for Africa, that means translates to about 76.7 billion Kenyan shillings. And then, what do 76.7 billion mean to Kenyan shillings? That's quite a lot of money. That is a road from, we can build a 400-kilometer road here in Kenya, and that is what has been wasted. I will call it wasting because what does it mean when you have the potential? You can do it, but then that is what we call laziness of states, that is laziness of states, because we have failed to harness what we can do, or to harness our potential or the resources that we have. This is the agricultural sector, so we have failed to harness the arable land that we have to have substantial produces to which can sustain our own people, and fail to continue to import, because some of the actually, after when we are going through some of the problems or factors that influence or contribute to huge importation to Nigeria, we get that what we call the inadequate transportation networks. Inadequate transportation networks, it means that there's a burden whereby a country needs to feed its people, and then the same country has hitches, as brings in the infrastructural sector, whereby even the transportation network is not up to standard. So what it means that they will go, always we have to prioritize the people, so they will import. After they import, the food now comes into the country and people now relax. But then, for those who do agriculture now, you realize that even after their produces have been produced, now they also have a problem with how these produces will reach the market. So it means that the network, the transportation network fails. But if we take time and invest in the problems, we say that these are the problems, so let us cure the problems, let us have the roads being built. This 76.7 billion Kenyan shillings or to their currency, will build transport networks in Nigeria, And just to proceed is that this almost, it's actually a double. Listen to this, that this almost is a doubling figure since the 2023, whereby the imports in that year 2023 costed about 471.39 billion Nigerian naira, the same period, So it means that actually it's just continuing to rise and rise, and over the years we'll actually have, because the population pressure is actually going, the bulge is huge and it's just increasing. Putting in mind it is the most populous country in Africa, so that we'll continue to experience that. Until when will we continue to do that? So therefore, fellow Africans, let us proceed. And actually that is not all. Listen to this, that over the last 6 years, that is up to 2023, 649.8 billion, that is in Kenyan shillings. In Nigeria, it's about 7.8 trillion Nigerian nairas, was the total amount that was used to import, or the bill that was used to import food over those last 6 years. 649.8 billion in Kenyan shillings. And also in 2022 alone, the country's food import expenditure amounted to about 8.1 billion US dollars. That is about 675.3 billion Kenyan shillings. So these are some of the statistics that we are getting from Nigeria in terms of food importation. In real sense, or a normal person will say, even our forefathers who went past, the greats of Osagyefo, Kwame Nkrumah, the greats of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, these are people and other Africans. They know that Africa was to be the food basket of the world. There's one thing that these people advocated for so much: the unity of Africa. The independence of Kenya means nothing unless all the other African countries are independent and they have what you call the unity. Independence means we now embrace the spirit of the same people coming together and finding the ideas and solutions, finding the ideas to the problems that we are facing as a continent. Because remember that the moment we realize we are facing the same problem, that is the great moment that we develop the same intention towards curbing that problem. So when it comes to these issues of food importation in Africa, it is a very worrying state, because for what purpose a whole continent accounting to over or about 20% of the total global arable land, which is about 300 million hectares of land, and only 40% of this arable land is under cultivation. This is a very worrying state, because our population is rapidly growing. We are at about 1.4 billion people now in Africa. And also, there is also another thing about how it is unfair for Nigeria to be in that set, because it is the most populous country in the world, in Africa. The 6th most populous globally. And then we have a country known as Southern Africa. Southern Africa has a population of about 64.8 million people, there to say. And ironically, South Africa actually, it is one of the countries that actually have more, they actually import. They are in the global market, whereby they as exporters, not import, but exporters of food globally, that great South Africa. So we need to be responsible for our people. Countries need to be responsible for our people. And since the current system maybe of governance does not understand that, it is high time that the youth of Africa realize this and realize that in these sectors we have the opportunities. These are the global opportunities. The agricultural sector, the resources that we have in Africa, those are sectors. Let us harness what we have, we as the youth, and work collectively together to make sure that we bring our pragmatic minds together that can enable us to solve our solutions as Africa. So therefore, fellow Africans, thank you for watching this. Let's meet tomorrow on 29th of January. We'll be discussing the resources that we own as Africa. Thank you, and God bless you. Have a good morning.